Yep, Samba de Amigo Party Central has just arrived on Nintendo Switch, 15 years after the series' last appearance on Nintendo Wii. And it brings with it a new dance club motif, an entirely fresh soundtrack, a single-player campaign of sorts, online modes, character customization, and more. So was it worth the wait? Samba de Amigo Party Central not only retains the series' signature maraca shaking action, but it's never felt quite this good before, at least at home. It essentially uses an updated form of how the Wii version worked, where it uses the tilt of the controller, or maracas, to determine how high or low you're holding them, rather than measuring the actual distance from the floor as in the arcade and Dreamcast versions. Only, it works far better now thanks to the Joy-Con's more modern tech, allowing you to effortlessly hit those high, medium, and low beats. In fact, Sega was seemingly so confident in the improved accuracy that the game doesn't even feature the same targeting circle that every past game has. Although there may be a small problem associated with that, but we'll circle back to that issue later. The Joy-Cons, which you hold arm style, do a pretty good job of mimicking actual maracas, with the HD Rumble doing its very best to emulate the feel of beans inside the real thing. Although I do have to say that I didn't find it quite as convincing as when holding a pair of Wii remotes, as the Joy-Cons don't quite have the same heft, and the rumble isn't quite as strong. Plus, I kind of love the Wii Remote's silly speaker, where you can even hear the beans rattling around. But hey, none of this is something that a pair of maraca shells for your Joy-Cons can't fix. And yes, I kind of love these. There's a link in the description below for the exact pair that I use, but rest assured they're far from necessary. You can also play with just button controls, which is a great accessibility option, even if it's not quite as fun. Otherwise, the gameplay is pretty much the exact same Samba you may already know and love, only with a handful of small new twists, like a few new dance moves mixed in, including these crazy line drawing patterns that you have to match, along with a new roulette wheel that occasionally appears and causes some kind of random effect, or a minigame to mix things up. For its part, Party Central brings 40 songs in the base game, with several more available either as DLC or included with a digital deluxe version, and they span genres like EDM, pop, and more. Now look, musical taste is super subjective, and I want to be crystal clear that no one should rely on this guy for knowing anything about it. That being said, I've loved most of the soundtrack in the previous Samba de Amigo games, and this one, while still good, doesn't land quite as consistently. There are still some definite bops, with Good Time, I Love It, and Pompeii being among my favorites, and I appreciate that the game lets me mark them as favorites for easy sorting later. But the increased focus on pop music meant that much of the rest of the soundtrack didn't hit quite as hard for me as in the past games, with their more Latin-inspired sound. Although I was happy to see that both The Cup of Life and La Bamba make a return. Ultimately, the soundtrack is definitely more modern, but perhaps not quite as timeless as past Samba games. But once again, your mileage will likely vary. Oh, and if you're a Sonic fan, you'll probably want to grab the Sonic the Hedgehog music pack if you didn't already pick up the deluxe version, as it contains some famous bangers like Open Your Heart, Reach for the Stars, and I'm Here. At the least, everyone gets access to Escape from the City by default, and yes, it includes its awesome background. In any case, Samba de Amigo is a fun time no matter which song you're playing to, and it's even better when you play it with friends, up to 2 locally or 4 when playing online. Either way, it plays basically the same with everyone aiming for the high score, and going head to head is always a good time. In fact, it might be my favorite way of playing. Although oddly, you can't actually see the other players at all when playing online except for their score, which kind of undermines the competitive angle of it just a bit, and almost feels a little lonely. There's also a handful of minigames available exclusively for local play, like a love tester based on how well you synchronize, or this Rhythm Heaven-like baseball game, and they're okay. They might be worth a quick diversion, but they probably won't keep you coming back for more. But there's also an online-only Battle Royale mode called World Party, where you and 19 randos try to survive across 3 rounds, without being eliminated. And I really like this mode a lot. It's lively and surprisingly intense, since you actually can see everyone else playing around you. Especially since a handy meter here shows exactly how everyone's doing at a glance, including those in danger of being eliminated. Oh, you can even earn and attack others with power-ups too, like how this one removes your ability to shake in some directions. Brutal. And fortunately, this mode works even when no one else is playing the game, as computer opponents will slowly populate the game if it can't find enough human players. Wait a second. If that's me, who the heck is that guy? I can't believe the AI stole my identity. Now, even though Samba de Amigo is clearly more of a party game, there actually is a single-player campaign too. It's called StreamiGo, and not StreamiGo as I thought it might have been, or maybe it's meant to reflect both, I don't know. It's essentially a series of missions where you take on various in-game social media influencers in order to grow your own follower count, thereby allowing you to take on bigger and better influencers. If only it was this easy in real life. And it's a pretty fun way of presenting what could have been a fairly standard mission mode, even if at the end of the day, it essentially is just fancy wrapping paper. Although I do kinda love the fake chat that appears during the fake live streams. Although you'll see everything that they have to say after just a round or two. Unfortunately, the missions themselves aren't all that interesting, as there's only so many ways you can dress up Samba's relatively simple gameplay, and most objectives pretty much boil down to play well, whether by hitting a specific amount of beats perfectly in succession, or avoiding missing too many beats entirely. So this mode can get repetitive pretty shortly, and I definitely recommend enjoying it in small doses, as the game itself seems to encourage by rewarding bonus points for playing challenges that match the ever-changing theme of the week. Another thing that encourages replays is the ridiculous amount of customizations available for your monkey friend Amigo, which you can unlock using the in-game currency that you'll earn for doing just about anything. These include full-body costumes, headwear, skins, maracas, including items that are decidedly not maracas, along with the sounds that they make. Sonic rings, anyone? And you can even customize your icon too. What is this, Switch Online? There's a ton of fun stuff in there. And while I love the dinosaur and banana suits myself, I'm kinda digging the more slick look. And yes, for you longtime fans, Amigo's original attire is here too. Also, if you pick up the Sega DLC pack or the Deluxe Edition, you'll get access to a ton of Sega costumes too, including the sick Puyo Puyo hat and Maraca pair. Yeah, baby. I don't usually care that much about character customization, but I had a lot of fun with this one. I just wish a player or two could play as their own unique character too, instead of being stuck as a default one. Okay, now let's circle back to that control issue that I mentioned earlier. Because while the game truly does feel great to play, it might partially be for another reason beyond just the improved motion tech, as the game seems to be incredibly lenient when it comes to accuracy, both in timing and positioning. Basically, as long as your maracas are anywhere near the ballpark where they should be, it'll give you credit for the hit, rather than demanding the exact precision required of past games, which might be why the targeting circle has gone missing, as it doesn't really matter here. And more often than not, those hits will give you credit for being perfectly timed too. It's almost harder to earn just a good rating, let alone missing entirely. For example, I was able to S-rank several songs on the hardest difficulty simply by shaking the maracas in place without moving them from the center position, as the game assumed that I was close enough to hit both the high and low beats too. Now, this choosing method didn't work perfectly for every song, as it is a little inconsistent, but it generally still worked well enough. And pulling back the curtain on why the game felt so good did take away some of the satisfaction I was feeling whenever I thought I nailed a song. So I tried to put it out of my mind as best as I could and just play the game as I normally would. And you know what? It's still a lot of fun. Because at the end of the day, Samba de Amigo is mostly about having a good time. It has an amazing vibe and sense of lively energy to it that few games can match, especially with how energetic the backgrounds feel. Add to that a solid, if not classic soundtrack, some great online options, a surprisingly lengthy single-player campaign, and the fact that where else are you gonna find Maraca-based gameplay? So I like Samba de Amigo Party Central a lot, and it's almost exactly what I'd hoped for in a sequel, especially on Nintendo Switch. I just hope that they eventually patch in a less forgiving option for those who want a true challenge. And there you have it, GameXplain's review of Samba de Amigo Party Central on Nintendo Switch. With that, thanks for watching, and of course stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Samba de Amigo, including the upcoming VR version, and everything else on Nintendo Switch as well. Oh, and if you still want a pair of these Maraca shells, check out the link in the description below. And with that, we'll catch you later. Bye everyone!